The coaster pit is coming together, but it only has 2 coasters, so today we're going to build another roller coaster. But before we do that, we need to add a bit more decoration because it's looking rather bland in this pit. I went ahead and laid out some trees that I think would fit the biome that we're trying to have for this Yosemite themed coaster pit. I wish we had some redwood trees. It'd be nice to have some big chonkers in here. But I don't believe we have that as an option, unless it's in the Theme Maker's toolkit, in which case I need to check. I think they might have redwood trees in Planet Zoo, because Planet Zoo has so much more vegetation, like trees and bushes and stuff, than Planet Coaster. Like, that's one of the main reasons I hope they make Planet Coaster 2, is so they can add a lot more trees, because they've designed a lot more for the Planet Coaster universe. So far there's Planet Coaster and Planet Zoo. I wonder what the next game is going to be in the franchise. There's rumors that the next game is going to be announced in spring of 2024, because I think they just announced the final DLC for Planet Zoo, which I do still eventually want to do a Planet Zoo series. Hopefully it happens. One of the main things holding me back is I don't want to pay for all the DLC on Planet Zoo because I don't really have that much expendable income right now. So if you want to help make that happen, I do have a Patreon if y'all want to help support, and you get a thank you at the end of each video. Come on now. Now, naturalizing the environment is one of the best ways to decorate, and it doesn't even take that much time. A few of my tips though are to add a decent amount of variety, but don't add too much. If you add too much nature, it kind of like becomes a bit overbearing. It's good to find a middle ground. And my favorite scenery pieces are the rocks and bushes, because using rocks and bushes, you can pretty much cover up any blemish with your scenery anywhere. Okay, honestly, I'm not sure why I'm getting so detailed right now, because I'm about to build a coaster around this whole entire building that's about to tear everything up. I'm sort of annoyed that I did the trees first because I end up having to move so many of them anyways. But I really love plants and I felt really bare without them, so I wanted to add a little bit of nature. But a lot of it's probably just temporary. But in case you didn't know what we were about here, now you know. We love nature. Trees, rocks, bushes, plants, and the ants, aka our part guests. We love our ants. Alright, it's time to wrap up some of this decorating. It's time to build the roller coaster. And I bet you guys are wondering what type of roller coaster we're building today. I actually did not want to choose on my own, so I went to the comment section and I went for some good coaster suggestions, and I randomly chose one, and the one I ended up going with comes from some speedy boy who said we should build a steampunk themed RMC hybrid coaster called the Steel Express. So in case you're unfamiliar, because this is a rather new coaster type, RMC stands for Rocky Mountain Construction, which is a really talented coaster manufacturer that's been taking over the game recently, and is considered a hybrid because the supports are made of wood like a wooden coaster, but then the tracks are made of a steel I-beam, so you can do a lot more crazy elements that a wooden coaster wouldn't be able to do, such as corkscrews, loops, twists, turns, all that kind of stuff. And Rocky Mountain Construction is really cool because some of the best coasters they've made in the real world are coasters that were wooden coasters that were starting to get a little bit old, a bit worn down, and then they sort of redid the track without having to get rid of all of it. And then they retract the whole entire thing with the steel I-beams and add a lot more interesting elements and smooth the whole entire thing out. And RMC has remodeled some of the most mid wooden coasters out there and turned them into some of the best roller coasters in the world. One of the best examples is Steel Vengeance in Cedar Point. Steel Vengeance was formerly known as Mean Streak, and it had a pretty moderate reputation. And then Rocky Mountain Construction came through, redid the coaster, and reopened it as Steel Vengeance, and now it is one of the best roller coasters in the world. The other type of coaster RMC is really well known for is single rail coasters, which are like just one gigantic rail of a coaster. It's a coaster type that's also been put into Planet Coaster. We'll definitely put one in this theme park as well. but it's really fun because it's able to whip around into very tight elements. And Six Flags Magic Mountain in Los Angeles just opened up its 20th coaster called Wonder Woman Flight of Courage, and it is the biggest single rail coaster yet made by RMC. And I have not ridden it yet, but it does look super fun. One of the best things about RMC is they typically use coaster elements that feel the most fun. They don't create coasters that look the coolest, even though their coasters do look cool. But RMC's #1 priority when making coasters is to make them feel fun when you're on them. They want the G-force to feel good. Okay, so as you see, we have a speed problem. Some speedy boy did not come through for us, unfortunately, here, because the coaster was not going fast enough. But what I decided to do was make the lift hill bigger, and I'm gonna have to raise a chunk of this ceiling up. There's gonna be a section of the roof that's gonna protrude a little bit, and then we're gonna have to do some engineering work to hold this section up and make it look good and make it structurally make sense. No, that's good for now. We'll come back and make it look better later. Just keep on building. Or cut it into our little waterfall lake up here. Next, I'm gonna go into a triple down. So while we're going downhill, I'm gonna add some airtime hills into this, because airtime hills make everything better. Now, one of the reasons I put this coaster along the outer wall is I thought it would look good because of the type of supports. It covers up the basic wall pattern, so you can't even really tell the lower section of the wall is just a basic concrete wall. Your eye is definitely way more drawn to the fancy roller coaster that's caterpillaring all over the place. Next, I'm gonna build a demonic knot. That's what the game calls it. It does look pretty demonic though, it's pretty crazy. And hopefully it's okay that I build this element with this type of coaster. Sometimes I think I know about roller coasters, but then I build stuff and then the comment section reminds me how much I don't know about roller coasters. And that's why in a future episode, we're gonna make some changes. So if I do anything on the coaster and you're like, you should change that, let me know in the comment section. And in one of these future videos, we're gonna have an episode dedicated to me just going through and fixing stuff that people suggest in the comments. Also realizing it's not very safe to be building a roller coaster and testing it and having it run off the rails as there's guests actively walking around. But I can't be bothered to change anything. If these guests want to experience the alpha build of the park, they're having to accept the fact that there may be a few bugs. Alright, so now we're going to do the unthinkable. We're going to dive into the underground and build underneath the entrance of a theme park. Because we go 4 floors up, so we might as well also have a basement. And then when the train dives underground, we're gonna have them go through a heartline roll, then a giant helix, then it'll break and chain lift all the way back up. And some people have been complaining about my steep chain lifts. Just let me do my steep chain lifts. No one's riding these rides. I like the steep chain lifts. I think it's kind of cool. I know I said you can criticize my coasters, but leave the steep chain lifts out of this, okay? But now, we're not gonna do what you expect. I turn to the left instead of back right into the station. And this is where the transfer track's going to be. And then it is going to curve into the entrance again. And we're gonna have a coaster go through the entrance. Oh yeah. You already know what's happening. And in a moment, I'm gonna delete the supports and build my own custom supports for this room because these wooden supports do not match the modern aesthetic I was going for on this entrance. I also did not want the train to travel very fast through here. I wanted it to go at a moderate pace and then go through a barrel roll before popping out. But let's select the track and turn the supports off. And it's just going to be floating. It's full of helium. But back in the coaster pit room, what a transformation having this coaster along the back wall. All of the trees and nature. And we still have so many more things to add to it. Like, To think that we're just getting started. I love how smooth RMC hybrid coasters are. They're like butter in a coaster form. And I'm just going to enjoy what I've built here before the comment section tears it to shreds and then I cry and have to fix it or something. Alright partners, well we gotta keep on building. Gotta get this track back to the station again. And I would say the best path is probably to double back through our underground tunnel that we built, because there's quite a bit of space down there. So I'm just going to flip the track over and dive with the half loop back down into this pit and let us go on a flippin' journey. I'm going to do another barrel roll down here and some bunny hills for some good airtime to end the coaster off, and we'll reconnect it back up to the station. Finally. Now let's ask the comment question of the day, which is going to be, what is the last theme park that you visited? For me, it was Universal Studios in Hollywood, which I've gone to a few times this year because I got a season pass, because Nintendo Land finally opened, and lots of my friends who have been visiting LA always want to go to Nintendo Land, which I don't blame them. It's really, really pretty. It's a beautiful spot to visit. It's not super big and there's not a whole lot to do, but it's pretty awesome. And the restaurant's really, really good. Like, I like the food. It's not like phenomenal, but it's good. It's good. We have finally reconnected it to the station. We're gonna do some tweaking. We're gonna need to fix up some scenery, and then we will give it a test ride. First off, let's start by making all the rock and grass turn into concrete. The future, everything will be chrome. Also, last episode in the comment section talking about fast passes, it was so interesting reading the comments because of all the different types of people that responded. Like, we had some people who like buy fast passes all the time, some people who refuse to buy them, who think it's the biggest scam in the world. Like, wow, I recommend reading the comment section. You'll see some really just interesting takes in there. In my opinion, I think it's okay for theme parks to have fast passes if they want to, but they have to also be okay with the fact that I might piss people off and cause them to not buy tickets to come back to their park again in the future. It's kind of how it is, right? Like, as a business, you can kind of do whatever you want, but then if customers are unhappy with the decision, they don't have to come back. The difference with theme parks, though, is they don't have a monopoly, but you don't have like a whole lot of options of theme parks to go to if you're trying to visit a theme park. It all kind of has the same bull crap happening. Also, complete side note, but does anybody know anything about Planet Coaster possibly having any mods that allow you to play the game with VR? If anybody has any information on Planet Coaster VR mods, please let me know. I'm begging you. Okay, let's fix up this piece of roof that's protruding from the dome. The chain lift went higher than the roof went, so we're having to poke out the roof. I think after I'm done with this, it looks really cool. Like, I kind of want to add a few more protrusions on other sections of the dome. Maybe just to give some fresh airflow. You know, we have lots of trees in here. But we're in total fortification mode, just playing around with a bunch of steel beams. Feeling like a mega engineer at the moment. We gotta make sure we pay attention to the small details because those are what matter the most. I'm really happy that we got this whole entire coaster built this episode. It's a long one, and I actually got an achievement for this coaster because it had a lot of airtime hills. Apparently more airtime hills than any coaster I have ever built in Planet Coaster. So that's great, honestly. Guests are going to be feeling hella weightless. And in the next episode, I'm pretty pumped because we're going to be building our first official restaurant. We built some smaller food stands last episode, but next episode, we're going to build a legitimate restaurant with tables, food, and everything else restaurants have. Oh wow, this looks pretty sleek. I'm happy with it. Not too shabby. I can't wait to ride this at the end of the episode. Let's keep on going though. Next, we got to build the supports in the main entrance. These are going to be some big chungus supports. Just really out here. We're pretty much sticking hardcore to the modern architectural style that's going on in here. And the best thing about modern style is it's not too complicated. It's pretty simplistic. One of the other main things I still want to do in this entrance is have a fountain show. I want to have some fountains that also spout out as the train is going through the entrance. And yeah, splish splash, splish splash, drip drip, water. I do think it's really cool how this coaster is practically a sculpture that goes through the center of this room though. Look at us being so sophisticated. Alright, we have one more task on the agenda before we can ride the ride. We gotta connect up the entrance and exit. Gotta give the guests a place to wait in line and be tortured souls. At least tortured until we go through and add the scenery and details. Once there's scenery, they'll be fully engaged. And lots of people were suggesting I use this trick called the 4-meter rule while building my coaster. And unfortunately, I don't have practice doing that, so I haven't really utilized that myself. But it would be a good skill for me to learn how to do to have smoother coasters maybe in the future. And geez, with all the chain lifts on this coaster, I was able to have up to 5 trains. Well, let's go ahead and jump on one. It's time to test run the coaster. Start off with some leisure. Chain lift is really quick. I have it at the max speed. First main drop feels like a nice curve. We have a 0G stall happening right here. We hop over the top of the waterfall and go into the triple down. Ooh, and then we have the devil's knot. The devil's knot takes us straight into a 0G roll and then through a giant helix. Alright, we're gonna hang out for a bit before diving into our underground tunnel and doing a heartline roll. Alright, that is the first half of the coaster. Now let's chain lift up and experience the smaller second portion. Speeding things up for you guys because it's not finished yet. I like how it doesn't have too much speed through this room. It's just kind of like a nice little break. Now this part's a bit crazy. That half loop is sort of wild. I might need to rebuild it. It feels kind of jank. And then so many little airtime hills to finish the coaster off. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching this episode of Let's Build the Ultimate Indoor Theme Park. We have some small changes to make our coaster better, but I think this one turned out pretty dang good. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.